Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from SimpleProgrammer.com. So, I thought I would talk about an interesting subject today because I just feel like talking about an interesting subject. Actually, I've gotten a lot of questions about this and a lot of comments on this, and there's a lot of, it's controversial. There's a lot of controversy around this idea of a midlife crisis and what you should do about it. And so I thought let's talk about this. Let's figure out what is it? What should you do? So midlife crisis, okay. I think that there's this persona, there's this idea that, especially guys go through a midlife crisis, and then what they do is they realize that they don't have their youth and that they're facing their mortality, and then they go and they buy an expensive sports car and they divorce their wives and they go and bang some hot chicks, okay? It's kind of funny, I think, because I think that I wonder how often that seems to be portrayed on television, but from my experience coaching guys, I don't think many guys in their 40s or 50s are capable of that. I think they might be capable of taking the money and buying a hot car, but I think they're going to Tijuana and getting hookers, right? I don't think they're hooking up with hot young girls. I'm not saying that some guys aren't doing this. It just seems really weird, that whole midlife crisis thing. I don't think that many guys are actually, living that stereotype. So it's weird that that's portrayed that way, because I think that there's a lot of guys that weren't capable of doing that in their 20s, and they're not capable, certainly, of doing it in their 50s. So what's the deal? The deal is this, is that I think a midlife crisis for many guys looks a lot different than that. I think it looks similar from a psychological viewpoint of, I'm getting older, I'm running out of youth, I need to go and explore my options, I need to go live my life, I need to go and feel young again, and I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing. I think that, I think that this is kind of a wake-up call, right? This is how I view it. Is I don't see it as a negative thing. I think there's this negative stereotype that's propagated by this kind of false reality. Now, I'm not saying that a lot of guys who go through midlife crisis wouldn't like to do what I said at the beginning, but they're just not capable of it. They don't know how. That's part of the problem of why they're in a midlife crisis. And so I think that awakening is actually pretty important. I think that what a lot of guys go through, what happens a lot of times, and you might be experiencing this in your life, especially if you're young right now, and this is why I'm doing this video, is that maybe you're accepting things that you haven't thought through, and that are not to your standard. They're not exactly what you want out of life, and you're settling, okay? And so when you settle, or when you pick the wrong path in life, eventually that shit is going to build up in you, and it's going to come out at some point. And perhaps it comes out in late 30s or mid 40s for many guys, where they just realize that, I'm not quite living the life that I want to live, right? And is that necessarily a bad thing, right? And so I think there's a lot to learn from this, honestly. I think that if you're younger, you can look at your life now, and if you understand that when you hit 45, you might get to the point where you realize that you're not living the life that you want. It can help you to architect the life that you want now, right? To not settle and not lower your standards in anything in life, to make sure that you're building the life that you're going to be happy with at 45. But at the same time, I think you change as a person as well. And so, this is one of those things that I've experienced myself for sure, is that the person I am now is so drastically different than the person I was when I was 20 years old. It really is. And so some relationships in my life have changed because of that. Some have been removed because of that. Some relationship, the way I relate to myself, has changed drastically, right? The way I live my life has changed drastically, right? I started living my life early on in an effort to please other people, in an effort to seek validation from other people. I did this video on external validation, which you should check out. I maybe have a playlist or something on that topic, but that's how I live my life, right? And so a lot of choices that I made in my life, binding choices in many cases, including jobs and economic decisions and whatnot, were based on the idea of getting validation from other people, pleasing other people, right? And what I felt society expected from me. Okay. And I had to, at some point, as I changed, drop those things. And when those things changed, and I started to realize, I started to become what I would call my own man, and stepped into my own manhood and realized that I'm in control of my life. I'm in control of my fate and my destiny, and that I don't give a fuck what other people think. Like, it's fine. It's great, to have people in your life and have relationships. But if they're going to put guilt on you, or they are going to try and pressure you or have expectations on you that you feel that you have to live up to, then they're not going to be part of your life, right? So you're not going to allow those. You're going to have boundaries, right? I've talked about, I've done this book review on boundaries. I highly recommend that you read that book. You could check that out. And there's a disclaimer in there about it being a very highly religious book. So you can ignore the religious part if you want. But my whole point is this, is that, like, as those things change in your life and you change as a person, it's pretty natural that you're going to have a break with your current life, that you're going to want to make some kind of change. And if things go wrong, if things are going bad, right? And your life has changed to the point, or you've changed to the point that it doesn't match your life, then perhaps your life should change. And so, is this a bad thing? I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think it can be handled in a bad way. I think what can happen is that people can ignore this, or they can try to find some outlet, like just buying a expensive sports car, or, like I said, going to Tijuana or something and picking up hooker, or whatever it is. Like, people make really, really bad choices because they're trying to find a way to band-aid their life. They want to hold on to the life that they're living and not give that up, but they want to find some kind of outlet for this this change that's come about in them. And so they end up doing really stupid and foolish things that have high consequences, right? And so what but it can be beneficial, because instead of doing that, you can actually have a reflection moment where you actually realign your life, where you actually say, look, okay, when I was younger, I believed these things. This was the kind of person I was, and this is how I architected my life. And maybe it's, I live my life, like I said, with not the proper boundaries, with trying to please people, with not understanding things, not having the wisdom that I have now. But now I have this wake-up call, right? Because I realize that I'm mortal, that I recognize my mortality, and now I have an opportunity to re-architect and change my life to be what it is, right? Shouldn't we all have that freedom, right? And maybe there's going to be consequences of doing that, but isn't it worth paying those consequences because you only get one life? I mean, as far as I know, right? I mean, maybe there's some reincarnation, maybe there's something, but you're not going to remember that shit, because I don't remember my past lives if they exist. But you have to assume that your consciousness, as you understand it, has one life, right? Forget about what happens after that, because we don't know. But if you go with that assumption, right, then should you really live your life out of obligation to please others, or to be congruent with how you've lived it so far? It doesn't make any fucking sense. That's why a midlife crisis makes perfect sense to me, right? I don't think it's a bad or destructive thing. I think it's a natural thing that happens as you change and grow as a person. Now, some people maybe never experience it because they never experience change and growth, or enough change and growth in order to create the pain. Or maybe some people, maybe some of you that are watching, another reason why I'm making this video, that when you're younger in your life, you've figured out how to architect your life to eliminate these problems, where you haven't made a lot of decisions and things that will greatly affect your life based on not having enough knowledge, right? You've waited until you've had enough time or knowledge, or you've acquired the wisdom early in life, and you've gone through the personal growth. A lot of people never go through personal growth until it's too late, and then they're in this position. But what I'm saying here is that I don't think a midlife crisis is necessarily a bad thing. I think it can be a good wake-up call to tell you need to change your life, and there may be some consequences. But going through it, I think you have to pick the right way to handle it, right? Which is that you actually have to make alterations in your life, right? And some of those alterations are going to have heavy consequences, and you're going to have to accept those consequences. Maybe you will have to change career fields. Maybe you will have to move. Maybe you will have to change relationships around, right? And maybe there will be a huge economic toll, or maybe there'll be a huge emotional toll to those things. But if you align your life in the direction, and maybe it takes time to do this, to the person that you are, to what you want, then you're going to be much better off than living your life in misery and in bondage to the person you used to be. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I know this is not the view most people take. I think most people take the view of okay, you should get it out of your system and then go back to your life. Or this is ridiculous. You shouldn't go and make these huge alterations in your life. You're just being crazy because you're just like afraid that you're losing your youth. And that's ignoring the pain. That's ignoring the wake up call. I see it as a huge wake up call to say, hey, some shit is wrong with my life, and then I want to make it right. I want to make it the life that I want to have because I've only got so much time left. And so I see no problem with doing that as long as you're willing to pay the price and actually go about making those changes instead of just thinking that you can put some Band-Aids on the wrong life, because you might be living the wrong life, right? A lot of people are living the wrong. There was a period of time where I was living the wrong life, right? I'm not even sure. I mean, as I'm changing in the future, I don't know where my life is going, right? Because I've been going through rapid periods of growth, so I don't know if I'm not living the right life right now. You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? Or if that won't change in the future, but I'm taking it day by day. I'm taking it step by step, and I'm saying, hey, look, you know what? Instead of going into crisis mode, I'm saying, okay, I'm rationally examining my life moment by moment, year by year, and saying, okay, are there alterations I need to make? Are there things that I want to do, that I want in my life, in my limited time that I'm going to be here as a mortal walking this earth, that I want to accomplish and have? And are things architected in a way that's preventing me from experiencing those things or doing those things? And so if there are, then maybe I need to make some changes here. Maybe I need to adjust this variable or do that, right? And then where are areas that I want to grow into? So it's hard. Like I said, it's hard, and I've definitely gone through my ups and downs with it, as you've probably seen on this channel. If you've seen me change, right, on this channel, and how that's affected my life. But it's ridiculous to ignore this. It's ridiculous to think it will pass. It's ridiculous to continue to live a life that no longer suits you as the person that you are as you've changed. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, and again, another reason why I'm making this video, there's a pretty good chance that you have gone through this, because most people, like I said, do not ever go through any kind of real personal development in their life. But if you're watching this channel, and I've encouraged you, if you've read some of the books I've recommended, or if you've watched some of my videos, and you've gone through personal growth yourself and personal development, there's a pretty good chance that the life you're living now doesn't line up with who you are now, and you might want to re-examine that. You might want to take some serious considerations in the relationships that you have, in the job that you have, in your daily routine, and what you do, and who you associate with, and how you live your life, and see if you want to alter that, right, as painful as it might be, so that you can continue your growth, and so that your life will match up to who the person you are now is, which is hopefully a better person than you were before, right? So there you go. There you have it. I don't expect this to be a popular opinion. I really don't. But it's the truth. I think this is, something that we have to face, especially as men. I think equally as women, this would make sense as well. I can only speak from a man's perspective. But if we don't face this, you're going to live a life that you don't want to live. And to me, I'm not willing to do that. I'm willing to pay any consequence that is required for me to live the life that I want to live, rather than live a life that I feel obligated to live, or that society pressures me to live, or that someone else expects me to live. And that's freedom. That's freedom, baby. All right, that's all I got for you today. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Click the bell so you don't miss any videos, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.